evening. Thank you very much to the Ohio University Army ROTC for the presentation of the colors, and the Singing Men of Ohio for singing the national anthem. Good evening, and on behalf of the men and women of the Ohio University Police Department, I would like to welcome all of our family, friends, campus partners, professional partners, community members, and special guests to our first badge pinning and employee recognition ceremony. I'm Andrew Powers, the Chief of Police. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to introduce the people joining me on stage. First, seated to my far left is Mr. Steve Golding, the Ohio University's Vice President for Finance and Administration, and my boss. Seated to his right is our keynote speaker this evening, Director John Bourne of the Ohio Department of Public Safety. It's an honor to have both of them here tonight. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize our local public safety partners joining us this evening. These people represent the professional colleagues with whom we work cooperatively on a regular basis. If you would each stand and be recognized as I introduce you. First we have Athens Police Chief Tom Pyle, Lieutenant George Harlow of the Ohio State Highway Patrol and Athens Post Commander, Service Safety Director for the City of Athens, Paula Horan Mosley, Mayor of Athens, Paul Weil, Athens Law Director, Pat Lang, Chief Robert Reimer from the Athens Fire Department, Athens County EMA Director, Fred Davis, and our newly appointed Sheriff, Rodney Smith. Congratulations, Sheriff. I very much appreciate you joining us tonight on such short notice. I truly hope this marks the beginning of a close working relationship between our agencies. Thank you all. I would especially like to thank Chief Pyle and Lieutenant Harlow before anybody has the bright idea that now might be a good time to rob a bank on campus. They have very kindly provided state troopers and APD officers to cover calls for us on campus, so we've got it. This journey began over 2 years ago when we decided to replace our existing badges. Our badges were old, they were inconsistent in appearance, most of them bore the rank of patrolman, regardless of the gender of the person wearing it. And as we contemplated adding additional officers to the department, we simply didn't have enough badges. We decided to use the opportunity to create a custom badge, incorporating themes that would make it unique to our community and our department. It was a team effort. We had input from the entire department. We worked with Sun Badge Company in California, and we worked with University Communications and Marketing to design the basic elements of the badge. We then reviewed drafts, refined them as a department until we finally arrived at the design that you see before you tonight. It seems to me that a fitting end to this journey is a ceremony to officially issue the new badges and to celebrate with our families and friends. All too often in police work, we come together very well during crises, but we fail to celebrate accomplishments. And in terms of accomplishments, I think we have much to celebrate. While the badge itself may be our reason for coming together tonight, it is what the badge represents that we are really celebrating. In my mind, the badge represents trust and partnership on many levels. Fundamentally, our badge represents the trust our community places in us and the critical partnership we have with them that makes it possible for us to do our job. It's a visible symbol of our obligation to the community and our responsibility to maintain the highest professional standards, delivering our service with the utmost integrity and with complete objectivity. Our job is to be here for everyone, and the badge represents our pledge to do that. The badge also represents the partnerships we have with our local, county, and state responders, and our responsibility to work together in being as efficient and effective with tax dollars as we can be. At the end of the day, when someone needs help, they aren't interested in hearing about jurisdiction and authority. They're interested in getting the help they need. One of the things that struck me the most when I first came to Athens was how well the agencies here work together. Setting aside egos, setting aside personal feelings and personal squabbles, everybody here works very well together to ensure that we collectively improve the lives of our citizens. And I really treasure and appreciate that. This badge also represents the partnerships we have within the department. The development of this badge was truly a team effort. It's emblematic of where we have been and where we're going. Nothing stays the same in life, and this badge represents the department's willingness to embrace the future with respect for the past and continue advancing ourselves professionally so we can meet our community's needs and expectations. We've come a long way thanks to the hard work of the dedicated professionals seated before you tonight, and this badge symbolizes those accomplishments. It also represents the work we have yet to do, but I am confident that we will meet those challenges, and very soon we'll add those to our list of accomplishments as well. Finally, on a personal level, this badge represents the partnerships we all have with the loved ones in our lives. People often comment how hard it must be to be a police officer, but they rarely comment on how difficult it is to live with a police officer. So tonight is about the officers and their families. My name gets quoted in the newspaper quite a bit, but really it's the men and women seated here to my left that actually deserve recognition. They're the ones fighting with drunks at 2:30 in the morning. They're the ones being called into work in the middle of family events. They're the ones who have to find that delicate balance between home life and work. So tonight is to celebrate them and the families who support them. And if you would, please join me in a round of applause for these men and women and their families. I also wanted to make sure that families had the opportunity to see that despite what you may have been led to believe, I do not have horns and I do not spit fire. That would be the captain. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to my boss, but first, by way of introduction, I would like to share a brief story. 2 years ago, at Palmerfest, which is an unsanctioned block party on Palmer Street here in Athens, we had a riot. A house was set on fire, and a resistant crowd hurled bottles and rocks at the firefighters and police officers as they attempted to extinguish the flames. As Chief Pyle and I were standing on Palmer Street, watching our officers in riot gear working with troopers from the Highway Patrol's Mobile Field Force as they attempted to gain control of the situation, I contacted Mr. Golding to advise him of what was going on. His response was, "I'll be right there." I was stunned. In my 24-year career, I have never known a vice president of a university who, when they got a phone call in the middle of the night to say there was a riot going on, said they'd be right there. Usually the response was, "Gosh, good luck with that. I hope it works out okay. Let me know how it goes." Perhaps nothing better illustrates VP Golding's support for our department than that story. And he has made it his business to understand and appreciate the work we do, mostly from experiencing it firsthand by riding along with officers. He's truly committed to supporting us, which is a little unusual in a university setting. I know I speak for everyone in the department when I say we truly appreciate him and the work he does on our behalf. And at this point, please join me in thanking our Vice President for Finance and Administration, Mr. Steve Golding.
Thank you, Andrew. He gets to tell stories on me, but I don't get to tell stories on him. I don't know. That's totally fair. First of all, I'd like to add my welcome to Chief Powers for all the people who have come out here tonight for this very special occasion. I think that it's something that is important for the university to do in terms of recognizing these men and women for their service and how they serve the broader community. So I want to add my thanks to the chiefs, to all of the officials who have come here today to take part in this ceremony, and also to the families and friends who have also joined us, and a special welcome to you, John, for coming here and for participating in this as well. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd actually like to take a few minutes to speak to the officers. I want to contextualize what I say because I think it's important for you to understand from whence I speak. I've been at 4 universities. I've been at the University of Pennsylvania. I've been at the University of Colorado. I've been at Cornell University, and now at Ohio University. In 3 of those locations, the police department actually reported to me. So I've had a long career of working with university police departments over the last several decades. And there are several things that I have come to learn about university police officers. And I say this with all deep sincerity for all men and women who serve, whether it be in university police departments or in municipal police departments or in statewide agencies. I personally believe it takes a very special kind of person to be a university police officer. I think it's a difficult job because half the time your responsibility is to uphold the letter of the law and to provide safety and security for what amounts to be a city, within a city in many respects. The other half of your job is to actually be an educator and to understand the community in which you are working and the people with whom you are dealing with on a day in, day out basis. Many times these are very, very smart people who in many cases are somewhat immature, who may be having just simply a bad hair day. And you have to make the distinction between predators and people who are still trying to find their way through life. And I think that my experience more broadly, but also very specifically here at Ohio University, has tended to reinforce my belief that you are unique individuals who do an outstanding job on a day in, day out basis in terms of dealing with the community that you serve. In that regard, it is also important, I think, that we understand that in many respects you are one of the most visible symbols of the university, whether it be because you are enforcing rules and regulations, or you are simply being there to help somebody who is trying to navigate through the university, seeking information, or you are there to provide a service, and many times in some of the most extreme weather that is imaginable. And yet again, it's amazing to me the manner in which you serve and how you go about doing your job. And that's just if you think about this in the context of being a police officer within a university setting, before you overlay the challenges that have manifested themselves over the last 5, 6, 7 years in terms of the challenges of safety and security on a university campus. And there you have exhibited your professionalism in terms of your training and the manner in which you have gone about preparing yourself for any eventuality that might happen on this campus. And again, I have had the opportunity of talking with the chief, talking with the captain, talking with many of you about how it is that you approach your job professionally and how you take the charge seriously to ensure that we are a safe campus and that we provide the kind of safety and security that the parents who give us their children expect us to provide on a day in, day out basis. And so as I sit and I look at how you do your job, and I marvel at it, you also have to know that the president of the university, the provost of the university, the senior university leadership also recognizes the manner and form in which you carry out your job and the professionalism that you bring to it, and the manner in which you represent this university in sometimes difficult circumstances. So for me, I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for what you do on a day in, day out basis. I want you to know that the senior university leadership appreciates what you do, and we will find the ways, any way we can, to support you because we understand that the service that you provide is absolutely essential to providing for the kind of environment that we want here at Ohio University. So let me thank you for all that you do, and let me thank your families for sharing you with us so that we can provide the kind of environment on this campus that makes Ohio University the special place that it is. Thank you very much.
Recently, Baker Center began displaying artwork in the atrium where the escalators are that was created by members of the community specifically for Baker to display. Out of a desire to positively engage with our community, we decided to commission a piece of OUPD artwork. It was created by Ohio University's very own Tad Gallagher, and I'm going to ask Captain Kapple to play the role of Vanna White for a moment here and join me here on the stage to share the finished canvas publicly for the first time. In addition to engaging with the community, this artwork also recognizes the special relationship we enjoy with the Division of Student Affairs, who actually owns Baker Center. We don't always agree on issues. After all, student development is not a required topic in basic police training. But we generally find a way to work together and bring about the best possible outcome. And in recognition of this, I would like to ask Vice President for Student Affairs, Ryan Lombardi, to step forward, join us on stage to accept this canvas from Captain Kapple. Now, I know there's a committee that reviews and approves these pieces before they're displayed, and I'm not going to ask for any special treatment in that regard, but I would like to remind you who's at the other end of the panic button in your office. Thank you. I appreciate it. When we decided to hold this ceremony, one of my first challenges was to identify a keynote speaker. And for me, Director Bourne came immediately to mind. He was appointed Director of Public Safety by Governor Kasich on July 31st, 2013. Previously, he served as Superintendent of the Ohio State Highway Patrol. During his tenure as Superintendent, Ohio recorded its fewest number of traffic fatalities ever, and the patrol reprioritized its focus to place greater emphasis on criminal patrol, leading to record seizures of drugs and contraband. Director Bourne also streamlined the patrol's organizational structure and strengthened its partnerships with local law enforcement. Director Bourne is also a Bobcat. While I certainly value his connection to Ohio University, it is Director Bourne's emphasis on enhancing local relationships that led me to think of him as our keynote speaker. As superintendent, he regularly attended the State University police chiefs meetings in Columbus, and he's continued to attend those meetings even since being appointed director. He recently attended one of our local Homeland Security meetings to present the grant check for our region, and when I invited him to speak tonight, he replied almost immediately to accept the invitation. His approachability and his personal engagement is appreciated by first responders across the state, and especially by those of us here in Athens. So with that, please join me in welcoming Director John Bourne from the Ohio Department of State.
Well, good evening. This is participatory. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, thank you, first of all, Chief, Vice Presidents, Golding, Lombardi, and thank all of you for the opportunity to say a few remarks at this important ceremony. This is home for me, and it's great to be back not only in Athens, but back to Ohio University. If I would have told you that in 1985, as I was graduating from Ohio University with a bachelor's degree in journalism and applying to the Ohio State Highway Patrol to be a trooper, that one day that I would be back here as the director of the Department of Public Safety speaking, I would not have believed it. For those that went to OU with me or played baseball with me, they would have less likely believed it than me. But it is great to be back here, and the good thing about my remarks is they will be fairly brief so that we can get to the action at hand, and that is this ceremony that conveys the importance of both the badge and the people that serve behind that badge. You know, some historians believe the first police badge was used in about 1845 in London, England. And that first police badge actually was a reflection of the first badges ever worn by knights. And those knights wore the badge to signify loyalty to their royal leader. And I, again, can tell you that as the colonel of the Highway Patrol prior to taking this job, I don't think any trooper who put the badge on would have referred to me as a royal leader. Maybe a royal something, but not a royal leader. But that badge commands respect today, as it did in 1845, and as it did for those knights that wore that badge. I will also point out that most of the officers that you see, not only here tonight, but throughout the United States and the world, wear their badges on the left side of their chest above their heart. And this actually signifies something where practical, although you see some wear them on the belt or on a necklace, and sometimes because of uniform design, they'll wear it on the other side. But originally it was worn on the left side over the chest because of the pledge that officers made as they put that badge on to serve and protect. And they made that pledge by holding their hand over their heart, as we currently do today. I will also tell you the importance of ceremonies, I don't think always is appreciated. And so some of you, and usually with the younger members of the audience who are behaving very well here tonight, it's very difficult to sit through ceremonies, whether it's a wedding or some other type of ceremony. Sometimes the meaning of that ceremony is lost in the proceedings. When I became the superintendent of the patrol, the truth of the matter is that I thought we were spending way too much time on ceremonies. But after becoming the colonel of the Highway Patrol, I realized how important ceremonies are, because they are a commitment to those values that these officers have made and live every day. And so whether it's a wedding commitment or some other commitment, this badge ceremony tonight not only carries meaning for these officers and the families, but it is an honor for them to participate in the ceremony and an honor for me to be here. You know, as they pin this badge on their chest, this new badge, you are an individual, but by pinning that badge on, you're signifying that you're part of a cohesive group. One of the best leadership schools that I had ever attended, as I had traveled through the Highway Patrol ranks, was actually at the Gettysburg battlefield. And the United States Army War College offers law enforcement an opportunity to go through a leadership school in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, near Gettysburg. And part of that is you actually walk the battlefields, and you walk the final battlefield in that, known as Pickett's Charge. And you take the same steps those men took during that terrible tragedy. And the thing that strikes you is the fact that they continue to march forward despite overwhelming odds, watching people to their left and to their right virtually disappear. They weren't running, they were marching slowly, shoulder to shoulder. And I couldn't understand why someone would do that. Well, the fact of the matter is, the reason the War College, the leaders of the United States military took law enforcement through is because of the parallels. Because those that join law enforcement do it for the person to their left and to their right. They keep moving in the face of adversity, through very stressful lives, through things that are very difficult to talk about, because of that person on their left and their right. And so as you put this badge on, I would ask you to think about the leadership and the people on your left and your right that represents, because this badge, while worn by one, actually represents your entire agency, the entire university, and the entire Athens community. It cannot be overstated what the role of law enforcement is in the United States today. You're not just first responders or first helpers, you're counselors, you're therapists, you're victim advocates. That badge represents it all. And I think every police officer in this room, State Trooper, Lieutenant Harlow, our new sheriff, Chief Pyle, all of you have been on this tragic scene, whether it's been a car crash or a crime scene. And when you witness that scene, your life changed forever. In 1987, not long after graduating from the Highway Patrol Academy, my coach and I were out on US 50 working a 2-lane before it became 4-lane. We decided there wasn't much out there, and so we would come back through and grab a cup of coffee at McCappy's, which is still on Richland Avenue, and grab a cup of coffee and maybe work someplace else. That was our line assignment, but we decided that we'd go grab a cup of coffee and go off the line assignment for just a little bit. So we went through the drive-through. No sooner did we get through the drive-through, we heard the signal that most troopers know what it is when it goes across the radio. That was a signal 30. A signal 31 is a crash. Signal 31A is a crash with injuries. And a signal 30 is a fatal crash. Rarely do you hear the dispatcher call a signal 30. You may say a possible 30, a possible 31A, serious injuries, but you knew when they called that, even just a few weeks out of the academy, it wasn't good. So when I arrived at that scene with my coach, 2 vehicles had collided head-on, Honda Prelude and a full-size van, conversion van, 3 girls, all Ohio University students in the Honda Prelude had crossed the center line and struck a full-size van with 2 women and 5 kids in the back. Kimberly and Deanna were not much older than I. And I knew from that moment that I had the power, you have the power to stop bad things from happening. No chance of graduation, no first job, no marriage, none of that for them. And my thoughts turned to their parents. It was a moment like that I knew that I would retire from the Highway Patrol and a career in law enforcement if I had the opportunity. It's that personal experience of being there at the right time, at the right place, and stopping something bad from happening or preventing something worse from happening that badge that you're about to pin on represents. Earlier, the chief talked about a little bit about in my bio the career and what has led me to where I am today. And in August, when Governor Casey asked me to take this position, one of the things that he stressed was the need for all of us to work together, particularly in law enforcement. And so we have initiated an effort called the Safer Ohio Initiative that is blind to the color of the uniform or the type of badge, but is built upon that same principle that I learned at Gettysburg, that you do it for the person to the left and to the right, and you move forward in adversity for those people that you care most about. So as you move forward with your new badge, which I think is more than appropriate, and at the center of that is Cutler Hall. It represents not only the founding of the university and what the university means to the people of Athens, to the people of Southeast Ohio, and the people of the region. As you pin that badge on, I thank you for committing yourself to a safer Ohio.
Thank you very much, Director Moore. At this time, we will begin the presentation. And I would like Lieutenant Eric Hoskinson to step forward. Stage by his wife, Debbie Hoskinson, son Clayton, his daughter Cindy, and his son Jackson.
Next pinning is Chief Andrew Powers. Joining him on stage will be Ken and Kay, his mother and father. Next will be Captain Brian Kapple. The badge will be his father, Kenneth. Lieutenant Chris Johnson. Presenting the badge will be Steve Knopf. Lieutenant Brian Newvahner. On stage with Brian will be his wife, Lieutenant Rich Russell. On stage with Rich will be his wife, Donna, and sons, Austin, Brandon, and Carter. Lieutenant Timothy Ryan. On stage with Tim will be his mother, Jean, and sister, Kristen. Detective Rick Sargent. On stage with Rick will be his wife, Samantha, and daughters, Riley and Morgan. Officer Matthew Austin. On stage with Matthew will be his wife, Megan. Officer Farin Barber. On stage with Farin will be his wife, Jessica. Officer Justin Boggs. On stage with Justin will be his wife, Terry. And the newest member to the OUPD family, Carly. Officer Leo Carsey. On stage with Leo will be his mother Jean and his fiancée Christina. Officer Brittney Cottrill. On stage with Brittney will be her fiancé, Joshua Van Bibber. Officer Kevin Frith. Pinning the badges, Captain Brian Kapple. Officer David Gillogly. On stage with David will be his wife Toby and son Jacob. Officer Zachary Hahn. On stage with Zachary will be his fiancée, Classy Walters. Officer Adam Hoffman. On stage with him will be his wife, Melissa. We're bringing Allie and Cole. Officer Brandon King. On stage with Brandon will be Joni McCune. Officer Jason Meade. On stage with Jason will be his wife, Jessica, and not so new, but the second member of our family this year, Grant. Officer Jason Schoonover. stage with Jason will be his wife Kara and son Aaron and Gage. Officer David Valentine. On stage with David will be his wife Jennifer and sons Zachary and Jesse. Officer Tim Woodyard. On stage with Tim will be his wife Tiffany. Officer George Anderson. On stage with George will be his son Daniel. Officer Richard Comer. On stage with Richard will be his sister Joy Bales and niece Emily. Officer Donald Combs. On stage with Don will be Steve Knopf. Communications Officer Jennifer Davis. Communications Officer Stephanie Egan. On stage with Stephanie will be her husband Joe. Communications Officer Cathy Hart. On stage with Cathy will be Wyatt McCune. Business Manager Joni McCune. On stage with Joni will be her husband, Kevin. Administrative Assistant Angie Brickles. On stage with Angie will be her husband, Dennis. That concludes our pinning. Let's give him a round of applause. There are two additional people we'd like to give something to this evening, and that would be Director John Bourne and Vice President Steve Golding. We're presenting them with a framed, signed by each member of the department, commissioned piece of artwork that we just recently had made up. We would ask that you please accept this as a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Lieutenant Hoskinson, for standing in on the pinning portion. And thanks again to our special guests. We appreciate very much you being here tonight. As we conclude this evening's ceremony, I'd like to invite everybody to stay for the reception and refreshments. Afterwards, there'll also be a photographer available for photographs with department members. There is an important safety warning I need to issue. Officer Frith, could you raise your hand? So don't get between him and the food. Just a warning. I would also like to mention that, as many of you know, UPD was very fortunate in acquiring a grant from Ohio Homeland Security to purchase an explosives detection canine. Now, we do not yet have the dog, nor do we have the handler, but we have the car. And that car is on display in front of the rotunda on the 4th floor right out on Court Street. So I would encourage all of you to take a moment to take a look at that and try to visualize a dog in it. We'll be about right. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to have all of the department members stand and join me in a round of applause for our families and friends. We appreciate their support a great deal, even if we don't do a good job of saying it often. And that concludes our ceremony. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you all being here. Thank you.